I love Fado music. It's so dramatic, it's so theatrical, it's so melancholic, it's so much of everything. Hi, this is C'est Karma, and today I'm with DIFFUS to talk about my album, How to Peel an Orange.
How has your cultural heritage shaped your musical upbringing?
I think the fact that Luxembourg is a very small country definitely played a huge role. The music scene was very small, which made it very accessible. I quickly made friends, and that definitely enhanced my experience, I think. As for my Portuguese heritage, I think that's where more the family aspect of my musical upbringing takes place. We were not a very musical family, but music always was part of everything. My grandpa was always singing, so music was always part of it, even if no one was a musician.
What is your relationship to language and music?
I love language, I love literature, I love poetry, and the fact that I understand and know so many languages. I speak 7-ish in total. I would say my Spanish has heavily declined over the last 3 years. Makes for a very nice position to be in. I can choose which language I want to use for what type of emotions. I tend to use French a lot for more vulnerable or more angry songs, whereas English is the go-to pop language for me, I would say. And then leading up to my album, I just released a Portuguese single, which is the first song I ever wrote in Portuguese. And that's more the very sentimental or traditional register in terms of language for me. But it's really cool. I love using language.
How did you get into songwriting?
So I took violin lessons for 6 or 7 years as a kid. I hated every minute of it almost. And then when I was 14, I joined a punk band. And I think through the punk spirit of just not giving a fuck, I kind of discovered that music is so much more than just mathematics and harmonies and sheet music, and I think that definitely helped me open my eyes to different types of songwriting. And then now I'm relearning a lot of musical theory, but to start off with, I really enjoyed being kind of free from my brain.
What was your musical evolution like?
I started off in a punk band when I was 14. I used to play the guitar pretty badly, which made for a perfect punk band. It was called Karma Catheta. And then I ditched the band. We survived a whole 3 concerts until we broke up. And then I switched to an acoustic guitar and kind of went down a very traditional folk indie route. But then kind of the pandemic hit and I grew up and I discovered that I love violin sounds, which is kind of what I was looking for in punk music, but then I rediscovered it through hyperpop and various artists from that world. And that has eventually led me to different forms of pop that I enjoy making now.
Which artists inspire you?
So now for the album, I drew a lot from Carolyn Polachek, or more old school the Cocteau Twins, Imogen Heap, her band Frou Frou. But I'm also a huge Charlie XCX fan and have been for the last 5 to 6 years. Similarly, Sophie or Björk on the more experimental side have been crucial to this process.
What inspired the album title?
When I started the songwriting process for the album, I knew I wanted the album to be something between comfort and discomfort. I love playing with opposites, and then I was kind of trying to think of a metaphor to kind of combine those 2 opposites, and somehow I landed on the orange because it's sour and sweet at the same time, which for me kind of was the perfect match for those 2 opposites. In Portuguese culture, oranges are everywhere. They grow on trees, they're eaten all the time. So it kind of had this connection to my personal history, but also with this really nice metaphor that somehow has evolved into so much more, not only the sweet and sour, but also the process of peeling it being kind of a revealing of something delicate inside. And I love playing with ideas of fruits as metaphors for stuff.
How do you decide to tell stories that are very personal to you?
I think my way of dealing with this, and this is a super interesting question, is that I try to kind of encrypt certain experiences in like super abstract metaphors that no one actually will understand, but that for me make a lot of sense because I lived through them. But I always try to convey a certain emotion through the words I choose without being too obvious about them.
What was your approach in creating the sound of the album?
So I had a few like general moods I wanted to find on the album, and then that was kind of the starting point. I had like this huge board that I put everything that might inspire the sound on the album. It was a lot of textures, like physical textures. It was scenes from movies. It was color combinations that for me represented those different moods. So they went from very light and bright to a lot darker or more aggressive colors. And so I think those physical and visual elements definitely influenced the different moods.
Why did you feature Fado music on the album?
Fado music is traditional Portuguese music, and I recorded the album in Portugal, is maybe an important detail. And while I was there, I kind of tried to incorporate my Portuguese heritage in a bit more obvious way than just little hints here and there. And I love Fado music. It's so dramatic, it's so theatrical, it's so melancholic, it's so much of everything and so pure at the same time. So then I just randomly hit up Fado, who now have the feature on the song, which is a queer trans Fado duo, and they kind of do amazing work of queering Fado as a genre and actively creating space for people that have previously been excluded from those traditions. And for me, that kind of brought up very interesting questions about my relationship to Fado and to Portuguese traditions as well. And so I hit them up and we decided to collaborate together. And I think the three of us kind of managed to hit a very nice spot within Portuguese culture, where I am from the Portuguese diaspora in Luxembourg. They were born and raised there and kind of experience Portugal as it is today. And we tried to create a sweet little safe haven for all the gays and the days out there.
What are you looking the most forward to now?
I'm looking forward the most to actually playing the album live. I'm taking a band with me this time around, and I think sharing the album with people in real life, not just on the internet, is going to be very special, and I look forward to that a lot.